Scott, here is a lovely sentence. We're here ahead of Scotland's World Cup squad announcement for 2026.
It's exciting, isn't it?
Obviously, my name's 𝗦𝗾𝗂. I'm delighted to be joined by yourself, Scott McDermott, all the way from the National Stadium, and we are around 7 or 8 minutes away from learning Scotland's 26-man squad for the World Cup.
Yep, can't wait.
I'm absolutely buzzing.
John
Easton writes in as well, saying he's buzzing. We're going to have a quick chat, Scott, before we get the squad itself, about our predictions and some contenders for the squad. The first one we were mentioning off air there, for me, up front, I'd love to see 𝗬𝗓𝗪𝗓 get a shout. I'd love to see him get in.
I'm the same, Daniel. I mean, I kind of jotted down names there, trying to kind of balance it between what I think Steve Clarke will pick and what I would like to see. And I've got 𝗬𝗓𝗪𝗓 in it. I just think he brings a freshness, a youthfulness, an energy up front, just something a bit different. I think I've not watched much of him, but I think he's in reasonable form. In Italy, I think he scored against Inter Milan the other day. Got a couple of goals now over there. Obviously difficult for any young player to settle into a league like that, especially in a team that's struggling, but he seems to have done well. So I would like to see him. I mean, there's other strikers competing obviously for a slot in the squad, but certainly the names I've written down, I'd like to see 𝗬𝗪𝗪𝗓 on that list.
What about we were just talking, Scott, about midfield there. You were saying that there's a Rangers player you think could be an outside shot.
I just think, I mean, it probably is an outside bet, but I just wonder whether Conor Barron will sneak into the squad, Daniel. I mean, I've written down midfielders here who I think are stick-ons with Steve Clarke, Billy Gilmour, Scott McTominay, Lewis Ferguson, Kenny McLean, John McGinn, Ryan Christie. I think Lennon Miller will also be in there. He's been in the last few squads, even though he's not had a lot of minutes. But in the 26-man squad, I feel as if there's probably room for another midfielder, and you're looking at some of the contenders, guys that have been in and about it, guys like Andy Irving, for instance. But I think Barron's maybe got an outside chance. He's obviously come back from injury into the Rangers team. Disappointing end to the season for him at club level, but he's fresh. Again, I think he brings an energy. We've discussed on here before, I think, going to America for a tournament like this, in terms of the climate, you're going to need legs. You're going to need youthfulness and energy, and I think Barron brings that. He probably gives Scotland something a wee bit different. I'm not saying he would be a starter, obviously, but I just wonder if Steve Clarke will think, there's room for somebody like him in the 26.
If you're watching at home, let us know your thoughts, who you'd have in your squad, and all of the above. And once we have the final squad, we'll let you know. It'll be breaking news. You'll hear it here first. Defensively, Scott, I was saying before we come on air there, I'm so gutted for Craig Halkett at Hearts, because I know he hasn't really nailed down a spot in the Scotland squad or whatever, but just after such an amazing season, here they've been eyeing a seat in the plane. Obviously, such a bad injury, he won't be there. But is there anyone else at Hearts that you think could maybe sneak in at the last minute?
Well, I mean, I think his central defensive partner has got to have a shout. Stuart Finlay. I mean, I agree on Halkett. I think he definitely put himself in contention with his performances for Hearts. He's been picked by Steve Clarke before, so he's no unfamiliar with the squad. Given what he's done this season, I think it would have definitely been a contender for it. It's interesting defensively. I mean, we know how loyal Steve Clarke is, and I think people like Grant Hanley, for instance, people probably look and think, well, why is Hanley going to win the squad again? But he's been there, seen it, done it. Steve Clarke trusts him. He loves his experience. He loves his kind of leadership. Qualities. I think he's really good within the group, Grant Hanley. So you expect him to be in there. Again, I think there's probably one slot up for grabs in terms of the centre backs. Jack Hendry's probably favourite to get it, I would say, but I think Stuart Finlay and Dominic Hyam for Wrexham are probably the other two that are vying for that spot. But again, he likes Jack Hendry, he trusts him, good experience. He's been at tournaments before, obviously. I mean, this would be Jack Hendry's third major tournament, which is incredible. Just talking about that for a Scotland player. So, again, there's probably one space up for grabs. And Steve Clarke, he doesn't normally like surprises, as you know. He kind of sticks to these tried and tested, but we'll see if there's maybe a wee left field one thrown in there.
See, that's the thing about it. You mentioned Grant Hanley, and like you say, Scotland fans will give him stick at times, and they want someone younger, fresher in. But again, he's been rock solid for 3 tournaments. Like, if you're Steve Clarke, why would you turn away for that? Do you know what I mean? Like,
and he's been a vital kind of part of qualifying for these tournaments. And again, I don't think you can underestimate somebody like Hanley's influence in the squad. We know how tight knit this group, as Steve Clarke talks about it all the time. He spoke recently about how John McGinn and obviously the captain Andy Robertson are the real leaders in there. They effectively run the dressing room. It's almost like a club environment. So I think that plays a part in Steve Clarke's selection. These guys need to be good within the group. Jacko turning up for his work.
He's barbed. Get him off.
So no, Hanley's a massive influence in there. I think that's why he'll be on the plane.
I'm frantically refreshing the social media channels now. If you're watching, we're still waiting. Hopefully, in the next minute or two, we'll have Scotland's official World Cup squad. Just before that, Scott, is there any wild cards you could see sneaking in? I'd said to you before we come on here that 𝗦𝗾𝗂𝗧 was one that I thought maybe decent season in Bundesliga, but probably not.
Nah, I mean, I think guys like Buck and 𝗦𝗾𝗂𝗧 and that, I mean, they've obviously put themselves in contention with their club performances, but it goes back to the manager wanting these trusted lieutenants. Again, I would argue 𝗦𝗾𝗂𝗧 or 𝗦𝗾𝗂𝗧, for instance, especially McDermott, actually, would probably be ahead of 𝗦𝗾𝗂𝗧, for instance, certainly when it comes to goals and performances. When you think about it, I think 𝗦𝗾𝗂𝗧 scored like 18 goals in the championship this season, so he's had a better campaign than 𝗦𝗾𝗂𝗧's. So there'll be an argument to say, should Dykes be in the squad? But this is a guy that Steve Clarke's turned to so many times. He's relied upon him in big games. He obviously knocks his pan in up front for Scotland, even if he's not always rewarded with goals. So I'd be amazed if 𝗦𝗾𝗂𝗧 wasn't in the squad. And again, people look at that and think, no, does he really deserve it? But Steve Clarke likes rewarding the guys that have got Scotland to where they are just now. And the one kind of slight, or maybe, I don't know if you'd call it a surprise, but I think Finlay Curtis will be in there, Danny. I think he likes a couple of young boys in the squad. It means we could have Lennon, Miller and Curtis in there. And again, pace, energy, excitement. I think he'll be the one that, along with Doak, certainly gives you that in a wide area. And Curtis has been phenomenal at the end of the season. 5 goals in 14 games on loan at 𝗪𝗏. So I think Curtis will be in there.
I agree with you. I think he's been brilliant in the second half of the season, to the point where I thought Rangers should have let him go. I think he could have played a part there.
Well, that's a big question. I mean, Danny decided to send them out and keep faith in 𝗪𝗏𝗂𝗧 and Antman and people like that. But I think you're right. I mean, Curtis has been a different level to those guys. Look, the flip side of that is Rangers will argue, they'll get a better player back in the summer. They'll argue that this loan has been an absolute dream for Finlay Curtis and for them, because playing every week for 𝗪𝗏, Premiership level, scoring goals, creating goals, so much confidence now, gets his Scotland call up, and he'll go back to Rangers in the summer, like a different player, and should be ready to kick on in Rangers' first team. I hope he gets the opportunity.
Well, it's 11 o'clock. If you're watching Scotland, you'll see Scott on their national team channels. They've dropped the squad, but it's a video. So I'm currently sitting watching it before we can actually. 𝗦𝗾𝗂𝗧 McGregor is gracing my screen right now. So we will hopefully have the actual squad for you any second now. It just feels amazing. First, I was typing it out earlier. First World Cup squad in 28 years.
That's unbelievable.
Absolutely insane. We've had to wait that long.
I
but
don't think
finally
it's
they're
really.
over.
I know. I don't think it's really sunk in yet, Daniel.
No, I know.
Probably not until we're on the plane getting over there. But certainly milking it with this squad announcement video.
I know. I've seen
Very,
every nook and cranny of Scotland in the last 30 seconds.
very modern way of doing it. We should have known better.
Let me have a look. Right, I think I've got the squad. I can read it out to you now, Scott.
Brilliant.
So, in goals, Craig Gordon, Angus Gunn, Liam Kelly. The defenders, Grant Hanley, Jack Henry, 𝗟𝗓𝗃𝗍𝗹𝗱, Dom Scott McKenna, Nathan Patterson, Anthony Ralston, Andy Robertson, John Souttar, and Kieran Tierney. In midfield, Ryan Christie, Finlay Curtis is in.
Yep.
Lewis Ferguson, Ben Gannon-Doak, Billy Gilmore, John McGinn, Kenny McLean, and Scott McTominay. And up front, Che Adams, Lyndon Dykes, George Hurst, Lauren Shankland, and Ross Stewart.
Wow.
Ross Stewart makes it.
That's your left field. That's your left field pick.
Aye.
There, Dan.
I mean, he's had a great season at Southampton, but he didn't even enter my thinking, if I'm honest.
He has. I mean, he's always been kind of mentioned as a contender, along with the likes of McBurney and Ollie Buck and people like that. But aye, that's well, given that he obviously had injury problems, but he's come back really strong for Southampton. Obviously, getting to the playoff final. But I mean, I think I'm right in saying he's not been in a squad in a long time. So for him to go right in there into a World Cup squad, fair play to him. What a story that is.
Aye, amazing. So if you're watching at home, let us know what you think of the squad. Let me see the way the SFA put it out. The SFA are brilliant, Scott, with their promotional material and that. But just the way they've put it out, it's very hard for us to read or even get it up on the screen here. So the goalkeepers again, Craig, brilliant as well to see Craig Gordon in, amazing.
Yeah.
Remember before the Euros, he had that sort of unofficial goodbye match, and it was like, this is him. And if he'd said to him 2 years later, he'd be going to America. Brilliant. So Craig Gordon, Angus Gunn, Liam Kelly. The defenders again, Grant Hanley, Jack Henry, 𝗟𝗃𝗍𝗹𝗱, Dom Scott McKenna, Nathan Patterson, Anthony Ralston, Andy Robertson, John Souttar, and Kieran Tierney. So no real surprises there. As we said, Scott, you reckon Jack Henry would make it, and he has made it.
Yep.
Midfielders, Ryan Christie, Finlay Curtis makes the squad. Lewis Ferguson, Ben Gannon-Doak, Billy Gilmore, John McGinn, Kenny McLean, and Scott McTominay. And again, Che Adams, Lyndon Dykes, George Hurst, Lauren Shankland, and the big news, the striker included Ross Stewart. So
no Lennon Miller then, Daniel.
No Lennon Miller by the looks of things.
That's a big story as well.
That's interesting, aye.
Yep, I fully expected Lennon Miller to be in it. I know he's not played a lot of football at Udinese. We spoke about how tough it is for young players going to Serie A and settling in, but he's been in and around the Scotland squad for a while now. Lennon Miller, without probably getting the minutes that he'd have hoped for, but I just thought because he's integrated into the squad, then he'd be included. And listen, aside for that, he's an absolute top player. I wouldn't have any reservations about putting Lennon Miller into games like this. So he'll be really disappointed, I would imagine. I'm assuming there's no issues there with injuries and stuff like that, but he'll be really disappointed to miss it.
Aye, absolutely. I'm really surprised at that actually. When I'm reading through it, I didn't clock on at first, but Lennon Miller was one I never thought would be in the plane.
I think maybe it's just me, Daniel, but I think you always think about this when you see these squads. There's a lot of defenders in there. I mean, could you have sacrificed a Ralston or a Hayam, to get another midfielder in there, to get Lennon Miller in there? Personally, I probably would have, but he's obviously going. I mean, I think you get Patterson, Hickey, and Ralston in there. You really need three. You need three right backs. I'm not sure. I think if I was Lennon Miller, I'd be pretty gutted.
Well, that's the one. And again, I'm not trying to talk about the World Cup place, but Anthony Ralston is the one that I kind of thought to myself last night. Look, he's not even been at times this season second choice for Celtic. But again, it goes back to Steve Clarke's loyalty.
It does, because this is a guy. Whatever you think of Ralston, he was Steve Clarke's starter at right back in the last Euros, albeit not due to injuries to 𝗪𝗪𝗂 and Patterson. But look, the manager obviously sees him as a really important part of the squad. He's a guy that you can rely on. There's nothing fancy about him, but he can do a job for you. He could probably play in a couple of different positions as well. Anthony Ralston, if you asked him. But I just thought you've got 𝗪𝗪𝗂 and Patterson back fit. I know both of them have got injury problems. I don't know whether that's maybe playing in Steve Clarke's mind in case any of them would pick up anything going into the tournament. But the three right backs there, I think people will look at that and probably question it, as I say, especially at the expense of another midfielder and another striker.
Is there anyone else, Scott, before I know you've got the press conference with the Scotland manager coming up soon? Is there anyone else that takes you by surprise, either included or not included?
I don't think so. As I say, I'm just a lot of defenders in there. I mean, I was saying to you before we came on that it was maybe between like Hendry and 𝗪𝗪𝗂, but I mean, obviously they're both in there.
Aye, both make it.
Along with Ralston as well, I didn't really have in. So I overloaded with defenders. And obviously, football again into the nitty-gritty of it. If you're going with a back three or a back five, then you obviously need centre backs. But a lot of our success recently has been with a back four. So
Aye.
Certainly in the opening game, you would think they would go with a back four against 𝗪𝗪𝗂. So listen, I think that'll be the argument. Do you need that many defenders? Do you need the three right backs? Disappointed for Lennon Miller. I thought guys like Dowie and Barron might have sneaked their way in there just for a bit of youthfulness, a bit of energy. But I'm delighted that 𝗦𝗪𝗂 Curtis is in, as I expected he would be, and also pleased to see Ross Stewart just something a bit different. He deserves his chance. Ross Stewart, his career path has been incredible to get to go for. He was playing junior football not that long ago, and he's been in the Premier League. Come back to the Premier League this season, and to get into the World Cup squad after been through injuries and stuff, it's a brilliant story. And listen, he's a really good player, so no complaints about it.
The very last thing, Scott, before I let you get on, you mentioned the 𝗪𝗪𝗂 game there. Would you go two up front, and would one of them be Lawrence Shankland?
I think Shankland has to start, Daniel. I mean, I just don't see. There's no reason why he shouldn't be starting. As you say, if you're going with two up, is it Shankland and Adams up front? Because Adams is obviously Steve Clarke's first pick for a long time now. I would suggest yes. You have to. You need to go for the win. Obviously against 𝗪𝗪𝗂, going for goals. There's an argument you could play Curtis and Doak in the wide area. That would be pretty bold, like Steve Clarke's kind of terms. Do you know what I mean? So, no, to answer your question, I think Shankland has to start. And what formation that is, who plays alongside him, I'm not sure yet. I'm sure we'll discuss it plenty between now and that opening game. But Shankland for me has to start giving his form this season.
I agree. And just before we let everyone go, let me run through the squad. One last time, if you're watching at home, the goalkeepers for Scotland's World Cup squad, Craig Gordon, Angus Gunn and Liam Kelly. The defenders, Grant Hanley, Jack Henry, Aaron Hickey, Dom Hyam, Scott McKenna, Nathan Patterson, Anthony Ralston, Andy Robertson, John Souttar and Kieran Tierney. In midfield, Ryan Christie, Finlay Curtis, Lewis Ferguson, Ben Gannon-Doak, Billy Gilmore, John McGinn, Kenny McLean and Scott McTominay. And in attack, we've got Che Adams, Lyndon Dykes, George Hurst, Loris Shankland and Ross Stewart. That, to me, Scott, looks like a squad that's going all the way.
All the way to the final.
Aye, all the way. We're going to win it. Why not?
Let's just get through this first game, Daniel, with 3 points. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Scott, thank you so much. As I say, I know you've got your duties to be getting on with. You'll be seeing the Scotland manager very soon. But thanks so much for joining us on another Record Sport live edition. And if you're watching at home, all the latest news on the Scotland squad and beyond, stay tuned with Record Sport. Cheers, Scott.
Cheers, Dan.